cool. I came prepared today to really talk through, I think over the last couple of weeks, I've shared a little bit about our ideas around marketing and not just our ideas, but really our methods and strategies that we do here internally for some of you guys here within the program. How we get clients from Facebook, how we get clients from LinkedIn, and then how we, create a process out of it to push people through like a funnel. Well, within what we're doing and the transformation that we're trying to essentially inject into all of your guys' company, there's really two main methods of client acquisition for us, right? Of course, we have the Facebook and LinkedIn stuff, but then I also have what I call our targeted account list multi-touch strategy. And I'm just, Brandon, you mind if I kind of like just jump right into it, and then that way you can still share?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Okay, cool. So it's like everyone here within this program, like you guys are here because you want to land those highly lucrative, commercial roofing projects, right? And in order to do that, we need to have a strategy, okay? And it's not the buckshot approach, right? Like we're not doing this old spray and pray. I've put together a 6-step method that you guys can implement into your business without needing to rely on us, right? You don't want to be married to us forever, or anyone else externally, right? You don't need other agencies. You don't need the so-called like marketing gurus. And I didn't necessarily invent the core principle of this, right? The core strategy. I wish I did, but it's something I picked up from one of my mentors and originally heard or picked up from a book that I read, a few years back. And it's really simple. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is we have to get a list. Okay, so you're going to want to start with a list of commercial properties in the area and whatever area that is that you service. And you can find this list from many sources, but my go-tos have always been CoStar, okay, List Source, and that it's LIST, so List Source, or Reonomy, all right? And
Reonomy was my favorite, man. I tapped on that thing all the time, and you can pull people left and right on that.
see, that's what we switched to at the tail end of me being involved within the roofing company. We had just switched from CoStar to Reonomy, and it was simply a money thing. I think for CoStar we were paying somewhere in the vicinity of 2, 3, 30, maybe $3,500 a month. I don't remember exactly. And we switched to Reonomy because I think it's in that $400 to $500 a month range. And what I found was like when we did transfer from CoStar to Reonomy, we kind of assumed that some of the data would be maybe not as clean, or maybe we wouldn't get as good of information, but it was actually like, if not better in some situations, probably about the same. And so from Reonomy and CoStar, and same with ListSource, I think there's other ones, right? Property Shark, things like that. You can get contact information for building owners, right? And I'm not talking like PO boxes or dead end office numbers, but like real addresses and real phone numbers. And it's pretty powerful data if you know what to do with it. So for us, we would like sort through and filter the commercial properties by, building size, building type, building age, maybe. And there's a ton of filters on there. So we would kind of just go through that list. And it's very helpful because it starts to allow you to create that. Well, the name of this is targeted accounts list. So it starts to help you create that targeted list. And well, since you mentioned Reonomy, I'll just talk about it for a second. Like it literally would take us 30 seconds to pull a list of every warehouse within a particular area within 1999 and 2010 that's over X amount of square feet. Like we could literally, within 30 seconds have the power of all that data.
I've gotten some of my biggest jobs, man, using Reonomy.
Did you really? Okay.
And it's just like you get in front of the owners, networkers, people like that, and they're like people that are actually own the business or a high up manager in the business and stuff like that, which really helps.
Yeah. So after we, initially grab that list from Reonomy or whatever sources of your choice, the next step would be then to examine that list, right? And to start sorting it either by all the things I already listed, right? The roof size, the building age, property type, and whatever else you guys prefer. And so the objective for that is for you to hyper target 20% of that list, okay? And we want to throw away the other 80%. And the 80-20 there, right? It's going to be a little flexible, but that's just like generally speaking. And this is like a critical portion of it, right? And this comes from, I'm not sure if you're familiar with 80/20, Brandon, but I know, people use it pretty loosely and speak pretty generally. But it was created by a guy named Wilfred Pareto in the late 1800s. And um, I can't remember the exact story, but I think it was something along the lines of like all this guy's plants that he had, he was able to harvest like 20% of the 20, I'm sorry, majority of his crops came from 20% of his plants or something along those lines, right? And he took a look at that. He thought it was peculiar, but then he started to realize that like the 80/20 applies to all facets of life. Okay. And then like the principles that he like used to kind of iterate this 80/20 deal was that I think he said 80% of the world's water flows through 20% of the road or through 20% of the rivers. And then 80% of the traffic flows through 20% of the roads. And so it's like the whole point there is like that things rarely get distributed equally in life. Okay.
And you could even take that into like a sales team, right? The
Yeah,
top
exactly.
20% does 80% of your revenue, and the bottom 80% does 20% of the revenue.
Yes.
And that's pretty true, man. And I actually used to all the time just be really diving into those numbers and how to make that 80% less, right? I wanted it to be like 50% of the company is doing half the business and then the other
Yeah.
bit, you know.
Well,
So
yeah, it's incredibly powerful for that. Like, if you want to be good at business or sales or whatever in the long term, in my opinion, like it really comes down to knowing what you want, what you don't want, and then not only knowing what you want and what you don't want, but also having the courage to actually cut out the 80% of your options, right? And to cut the 80% of your sales team that isn't producing for you. Like,
I can't remember who is doing this, but somebody, up there is like they'll cut out the bottom 30% of their company every single
hmm,
month. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
that is super, super savage. I can't remember who it was.
yeah. Where did I see that? I actually saw that somewhere this week. It may have been on like social media or something.
I think it might have been like Cardone or
Uh-huh.
Jordan Belfort, or I'm not exactly sure where I heard it, man, but somebody said it and it's wild.
Yeah, so I want to kind of talk about, so what does the 80/20 kind of look like in commercial roofing? Okay, so many of us as roofing contractors, like when we do direct mail, the standard way to do it, right? Most of these outside agencies that are, doing it for guys like you and then, other roofing contractors, they're doing drops of 5,000 pieces. Okay, so they'll do 5,000 pieces of mail to 5,000 building owners, spending anywhere from, I'm a little out of the loop, but I'm going to take a stab in the dark here. I think 50 cents to $1 each, right? Depending on if it's a postcard or a flyer or a trifold, and maybe a little bit more if they envelope it up. So at first glance, like it makes sense, right? And I'm not trying to discredit this because I have done that before, right? I paid, can't remember the name of the agency that we utilized, but when we first got into coatings, like we had paid an agency to do that for us. And we did get some sort of return on it. So I'm not entirely bashing it. But what I'm trying to iterate is that those 5,000 buildings that or those 5,000 owners that you're mailing, all of those buildings are not created equal, right? The most value is probably going to come from 20 to 30% of those buildings. So there's, not, maybe are there not like jobs that might be worth like 3, 4, 5 times more, talking, how much you can make from those, uh, rather
No,
than
it makes sense.
some of
It
the
makes
other ones,
sense, man. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so like looking at this marketing campaign through the lens of that 80/20, I would just ask myself the question, like if I could only reach, 1,000 of these and ignore the other remaining 4,000, which, 1,000 would be that 20% of the 5,000, like what criteria would I use to actually like make my selection? So the chances are good that you go after a particular size or a particular type of roof, right? Maybe, well, the gentleman that just joined our program a couple of days ago, Brandon, he told us, right? He wants, I think it was 5,000 square foot roofs to 20,000 square foot roofs, and
Yeah.
he only wants metal roofs, right? So it's like chances are pretty good that you guys all could, if you sat down and took some time to really think about it and about like who your best clients are, what the easiest jobs for you guys to perform, that you'd all be able to do that, right? So I'll use that guy as an example. Let's say your sweet spot is 10,000 to 20,000 square foot metal roofs. Like if that's the case, then you would simply only target the metal roofs that above, 10,000 square feet. So that's how we kind of cut that list down. And then the big idea there, right, is like that we take that list of 5,000 people that we would, initially and typically send those mailers out to, and cut it down to 20% of that, right? 1,000, maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 people. And at that point, we would have, again, to reiterate the name of this system, our targeted account list. And once we have the targeted account list, like the next thing we do is we would figure out like, what are we going to send these people, right? So it's like, do you just send them, do you cut down that list from 5,000 to 1,000 and send them the exact same like cheap postcard or flyer or trifold that you were going to send the 5,000? In my opinion, no. I don't think that's going to move the needle as much as you're going to need it to be moved, since we are downsizing the volume. So I know, and I think all of you guys know, Brandon, you definitely know what the profits can look like from some of these commercial buildings, right?
I mean, you can make $1 million in profit, not revenue, on one job. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
work
So
smarter, not harder, is how they used to say it, right?
yeah, and which is, I think, generally speaking, most everyone here probably knows that, and that's why we're making this shift into commercial, or
Yeah.
trying to grow you guys in commercial. But like, if you're going to make potentially tens of thousands of dollars on up to hundreds of thousands of dollars from one project, like I think it's safe to say that like you guys could probably spend more than 50 cents to get a lead. Okay. And so if the mailing of that 5,000, if we were going to send out the pieces to that 5,000 list was going to cost you $1 a piece, and you were going to spend $5,000, well, then you can essentially increase your budget to send something cooler or a better piece of direct mail to those 1,000 people. Okay. So you could maybe increase your budget to $3 to $5 per piece. So that we're not sending, it's like, I guess a better way to describe this is like, would you rather send 5,000 building owners a piece of junk mail that, they get 100 of per week? Or would we rather send 1,000 of a piece of marketing that's going to like hit them and like just totally disrupt their attention from whatever they typically do when they handle their mail, right?
Yeah. And I think like making them like personalized too is also a good aspect.
Yeah.
And, I think with any marketing idea, right, it's usually just an exchange of money. And that's where like, measuring those statistics and stuff like that is so important, man.
For sure. Yeah. And totally agree with that. And like, I think, if you were to send a small package and then like either a handwritten letter or a letter of some sort, like you could, basically within that, let's call it the $3 budget, right? Per piece, like you could send something that's going to like catch their attention and at least make them want to open it up and realize and acknowledge, per se, what you're sending. So it's my favorite kind of marketing. And again, like I didn't create this, right? It's called disruptive marketing. The aim of disruptive marketing campaigns is really just to leave your I don't want to call them clients, your prospects, in a state of, disrupting their like typical pattern of what they do with their mail. So, if your solution can help them save money, something I've seen work in the past is we had a client, this was probably 6 months ago, that took this strategy and so they had a letter, right, that had what they were offering, but we sent these stretchy $100 bills. Did I tell you about this already, Brandon?
Yeah, I've heard that before. I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, we used a website. It was called 3D Direct Mail or 3D Product Mail or something like that. And we basically ordered those stretchy $100 bills, right? It looked like something that you would get from like the dollar store or something that like your kids would be playing with, right? Like something, I don't know, like something that you want to touch. But so what he did is he packaged up the letter with that stretchy $100 bill, and at the top of his letter it said something along the lines of, why did we send you a stretchy $100 bill? Well, number one, we thought it was funny, and number two, we want to iterate a point that we can help you stretch your dollar further on your commercial roof, right? And then he had like he wrote a really witty message there. So the next part is like that is
Well, I
the
think something about like it being goofy like that is actually
yes.
an eye catcher. And man, I've shot some very goofy videos in the past, and they actually get more traction than anything else. I don't know why that is, but people love just like that originality, that human kind of aspect to it. So
Yeah, you don't seem like a robot, right? It's not this
correct.
commercial looking like big yellow and red letters and a picture of a roof. Like it's just it's different. So um once we decide on what we're going to utilize to disrupt that pattern for that client, right? So the stretchy $100 bills, the catchy looking letter. Like I said, sometimes you could do it handwritten. Other times you could, I mean, it can be printed, but utilizing it, formatting it in a way that looks legible, like it doesn't look like a big block of text. The next thing we would really need to focus on is the offer. And I have a ton of videos on this within the university that some of you guys may have already watched. But good marketing, in my opinion, is like three things combined. Okay, it's number one that you're talking to the right group of people, right? You're talking to the right market. The second thing is going to be that you have the right message, right? You're talking about something, a pain point of theirs or something that's relevant to that market. And the third thing is that you have the right channel. And so far you've got your market narrowed down, right? For everything we've covered, you've got your market narrowed down to a fraction of what it was. You've got a great messaging channel, right? The direct mail with the disruptive marketing style to get their attention. The only thing we're missing is really the message, right? So this would be encompassed within the letter. And so the message or the offer. And this is where we need to get creative and try to be able to differentiate ourselves from anything they've ever heard from another roofing company. Did you
Oh,
guys?
so like just saying free inspection, that's a good one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Super
Uh,
original.
yeah, so for me, it's like things I've utilized in the past, or things I did utilize in the past were drone inspections, right? Everyone thinks a drone's cool. Like even in when we were doing like I'll talk about like on the residential side too, like being in a neighborhood, if we were putting a standing seam roof on or something, we as soon as we go to fly that drone to get whatever photos we needed, or if we were just trying to get some content, um, neighbors come out and they're just like everyone's attracted. They just want to see what's going on, right? They think drones are cool. So I think that the drone, the drone pathway is an amazing way. So you could offer something like a free drone, aerial drone inspection. We had really good luck with also doing thermal imaging reports. Okay, and the thing about thermal imaging is like it's way more advantageous and works way better for marketing than it does, if you're just out on a roof like trying to utilize it because the nitty gritty details of how thermal imaging actually works. But for instances like this and trying to get your foot on the roof, like it works great. And so drones, thermal imaging, and then just offering like commercial roof tune-ups, like for
That's a good one.
commercial roof tune-ups for like a low price. So whatever it
Oh,
is.
that's a good one. I liked risk assessment. That was always like
Ooh,
my
nice.
big one for commercial properties.
Okay.
And like you almost don't talk about anything about the roof. Hey, we're gonna come out and do a risk assessment for your property.
Okay.
And that always worked, especially when you're talking to like those real estate syndicates and stuff like that that own large properties and multiple properties.
Yep.
That just rings true to them for whatever reason.
Yeah. So whatever it is, right? Whether it's the drone, it's the thermal imaging, it's the risk assessment, like whatever it is, it just needs to be strong, compelling, and ultimately, like the idea from my perspective is that you want that building owner to feel like they're having the upper hand. Like this is a great deal and that they can't pass it up, right? I think it was Alex Hormozy that says like an offer should be so good that people feel stupid saying no to it, right? And so it's he's one of my favorite guys to consume content from, and I feel like that's it goes kind of perfect here. It's yeah. So like, does that make all that make sense for where?
No, man, it absolutely does. Getting me excited. I want to go send out some mailers right now.
Yeah. So, and then it's like, okay, so here's where we're at, right? I'm going to kind of recap. We extracted a list from whatever source it is that of our choosing. We then narrowed down that list to hit our 20% targeted account list. We hit that targeted account list with some disruptive marketing, right? So something that's going to catch their attention. And then we also are making an offer that's so good that they feel stupid saying no. The direct mail has, it's been consistently improved upon over the last, 80 years, right? And the guy that I was kind of alluding to earlier is a guy named Dan Kennedy, right? That's he wrote the book that I was talking about where I got a lot of these principles from. And he taught that, you know, within any direct mail campaign in which the results matter, like the direct mail has to be followed up with, you know, an email or a phone call. And it's kind of, you know, it's evolved over time, right? As email became a thing and the phone came a thing. But proper follow up, which is rarely done, can easily add 1%, 2%, or, you know, even more, up to like a 5% bump in the conversions of these. And Brandon, you've probably heard me say this 1,000 times over the last 2 weeks since we've taken a lot of calls together, but everyone thinks they have a lead flow problem, when in reality, you guys probably have a lead conversion problem. Okay.
Yep.
So this kind of speaks to that. So
It does.
when we're mailing our targeted account list, you know, making a phone call and sending emails out afterwards can mean really the difference between receiving 5 leads and 25 leads. Okay, so there's simply no good reason not to follow up these mailings with an email and a phone call. And we have scripts already. I don't know if you want to call them scripts or maybe templates. I have scripts and templates built out already for the emails and what to say in the cold calling. And when I upload this video, or Brandon uploads this video to the university for you guys, I will ensure that I have those in a PDF so that you guys can copy and paste those and plug and play those into the
I think we have 5. I think we have 5 of them in there right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
That are already uploaded
for storm damage and stuff like
Mhm.
that in there. Yeah. And
Okay.
we got some other ones as well for service and maintenance and those types of things too.
Cool. I'm not sure if I have some specifically written for like this process. I know I have a bunch of other like templates and things written out for like one-offs, but if those are already in there, great. If not, I'll make sure that they are. And then, so the email, like I said, 5 templates, right? The first one really is just going to reiterate our initial offer. So the same thing that we send over through snail mail, right? Through the postal service. We're going to send that in the first email. And then I just have some like follow-up emails that go after that. I can also show you guys how to set that up. If you guys need help with it, just hit me in Slack. I'd be happy to help. And then the last step of the process is the phone call, okay? And for whatever reason, most of you guys have an issue with, maybe not have an issue, but don't like to do cold calling. But in this strategy, it's not going to be cold calling, okay? We'll call it warm calling, because you've already broken the ice with the disruptive marketing package. You've kind of made your offer in a noticeable way. You've hopefully made some sort of semi-memorable impression through that disruptive mail package or through the emails that they've gotten. And after those 5 emails have been delivered over the course of like 7 to 10 days, it's like you're not going to do this. This won't be a cold call anymore, right? And since you've already sent them something memorable in the mail, the callers can use, like the callers within your business, if it's not going to be you exactly, they can use the fact that you've already broken the ice with those other channels, you know, the channels of mail and the channels of email. You guys can use that as an icebreaker. And an example of that would be something really simple, right? It'd just be like, hey, this is Cody with Jag Premium Roof Systems. We sent over a package last week regarding whatever the offer was, right? A thermal roof inspection. Just wanted to check personally if that's something you guys might be interested in, or if you'd be opposed to us coming out. And that's just like, I just made that up off the top of my head, but it can literally be as simple as that. And like anything meaningful in life, like anything that matters, this has a pattern and must be cyclical. So it's like, this is everything that I've explained today can really be taken advantage of and done within like a 2 to 4 week period. And then what I would do is just put this on a repeating cycle. Okay. Every 60 days, we just start up another campaign of the exact same thing. Right. And through the multi-touch, which this is how I got the multi-touch strategy, through those multiple touches, you guys are going to see more and more results, right? And then at some point, you'll need to create a new list and a new area, or, you know, encompass, you know, different buildings, because it is possible to wear out a list. But is that pretty good stuff, Brandon? You go line with that?
I love it, man. I've never heard anyone go that in depth before on mailers and just kind of explaining the averages and kind of breaking it down. That was good stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man. Like the whole idea here is really just to break away from, it's like you hear so many things, especially for whatever reason, like all of you guys that do coatings, right? Whether it's through Conklin or other channels, like mailers just for whatever reason have become the pinnacle of what everyone alludes to. But I truly feel like it's like the blind leading the blind, right? With just marketing practices that are outdated. Maybe they worked late 80s, early 90s, maybe even into the early 2000s. But we're just at a time where people are, social media has like ruined it, right? Like people are oversold, over marketed to, and we're just in a time right now where like our marketing just has to be so strategic. And I hope that this is going to help do that for you guys.
No, it is, man. I love that, Cody. Dude, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sharing those nuggies.